Yo, what's going on YouTube? In this video, we're gonna look into the assassin class. And again, this video is mainly based on my experience in the game, like PvPs and things that I've tested myself. Unlike my previous video, which I did include the popularities, but it was partially based on my recollection, which I must say, I may or may not have some bias on them. So in this video, I wanna do it the right way, which I have challenged across 30 different players, ranging from 70 million to 130 million rating, to see what characters they use in this 3v3 PvP. I made some sacrifices just for this video, challenging players with over 100 million rating, which is basically giving them free wins just to collect more data for you guys. So guys, can I get a like for my sacrifices? Please, I would greatly appreciate your support. Anyway, so here's the data for the assassin characters. The empty cells means they are not using that team, and the cells with an X in it means they use the team but there's no assassin in it. Alright, looking at this table, which is totally not surprised at all, blue team is the most common team here. Out of 30 players, there are 21 players who play the blue team, and the second place goes to the red and dark team. Then the third place for the light team, and then green, and lastly, the Otherworld team. What really caught my surprise is, I always thought that the green team is way more popular because of the OP meta characters like Jing, Lilith, and Athena. Then we have Otherworld team being the least favorite. I mean, I can see why it's the least common team, because their dragon costs 4 abilities to use its skill, which would take forever, especially up against dark team. The energy cost increase is the biggest nightmare to the Otherworld team. And the good meta Otherworld characters are mostly the SSR plus characters like Asmodeus, Spimo, or Azure, that you can only get from limited banners, which I believe is one of the main reasons why it's so hard to play this faction, because it feels expensive to play them. Alright, feel free to pause this video now if you want to take a good look at this data, because right now we're gonna jump right into the tier list. Alright, we're gonna start off with Hades. I wanna put her in like A-, like somewhere between B and A, because putting her on A tier feels like a little too much for her. I don't think she deserves A tier. I might get some hate on this take, but this is just my opinion. Anyway, I'm gonna leave her at A tier for now, since I don't really have A-. Okay, so what's wrong with this character? Well, Hades is pretty sucks at low star level. She is way worse at low star level compared to like Artemis, Poseidon, or Zeus. Even at higher star level, she still seems okay-ish, because this character is all about long fights. The longer you stall the fight, the stronger she is, especially with all her clones. Speaking of her clones are untargetable. Unlike the Loki ones, well, this means the enemies will just straight up focusing Hades herself. But she does have the passive to cheat death by absorbing her clone, but it will cost some death rattle stacks. Out of all the EX characters, I think Hades is the most replaceable character. There are many characters that can achieve similar or better result than her. Alright, how about we look at Hades factions, blue and Otherworld factions. So if you are playing the blue team and you are considering getting Hades as your DPS, why not go for Artemis instead? Artemis with higher DPS and untargetable buff for the team as well. What about the Otherworld team? Instead of getting Hades, you can go for Loki. She doesn't have to rely on long fight, and she can jump to the enemy backline as well. Other EX option would be Hela, which is an insane support with a lot of utilities. To be honest, I don't really recommend Apollo. I think she's best to be played in a light team with someone that can provide that rate of stacks, like Hela. So yeah, I don't really see why would someone spend their precious EX cards on this character. However, Hades is actually pretty good in the 1v1 PvP. if that's what you're looking for. Overall, if you're ever thinking about getting Hades, please, please think again, especially if you're a free-to-play player, because EX cards are really expensive. So please think carefully. Okay, next is Hermes. I'm gonna put her in A tier. She has a unique mechanic that exclusive to her, like an energy bar. Once it's full, she will turn into Tony Hawk. I'm not even kidding. She will basically skate around and leave a fire trail behind. When she's in her skating mode, she will deal damage every 0.5 second. So yeah, she is literally cooking them alive. If you look at her skills, all of her skills deal damage up to 1000%. So yeah, this character can deal serious damage. So now you might wonder how come she is not S tier. Well, first, she is pretty squishy. So if you're planning to go for her, make sure you pair her with Poseidon so that she can heal back up for the second round, just in case. And Poseidon's minus 20% magic defense would be insanely good for Hermes while she's skating around. And secondly, whenever there's an enemy standing on top of a magma rock and they got quote forcibly displaced, which includes drag, knockback, and launch, it's gonna hurt a lot. But the biggest problem is how? How can we possibly displace them? Well, Poseidon does have one of the best knockback skill, but unfortunately, it only triggers once right at the start of the fight. But with the latest character here, we may have a complete different story now, because this character, her ability is like an AoE black hole, dragging all surrounding enemies into a single spot. So yeah, Hermes is great with high DPS, but complex mechanic to pull off. Next is Jormungandr. Okay, I may have butchered her name, but please forgive me, guys. Okay, I'm gonna put her in C here. I'm going to be completely honest to you guys. I have been playing this game probably close to 2 years at this point, and I still don't know what this character does. I mean, not until now, because I want to read her skill just to make this video, but this character is one of the first gen character that released with the game, because I still remember at the very beginning when I started playing this game, and she is one of my starting banner character. The fact that this character is one of the oldest in the game, and I still know nothing about her. Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to say is she has zero impact in the fight. There are some like a couple players that I up against with, they got her to Diamond Star, and yet I don't feel her presence in the fight. It's kind of like when you see your opponent has a Lancelot, like you see her, but you don't really care because you know for a fact that she's not going to do anything. So yeah, if you consider using her, I would suggest you to use other budget-like characters like Laureline, mainly just for her starting blessing buff, which I think that would have been better for your light team. Alright, next up is Lilith. She's easily S tier right here. She's the only assassin that can bypass tanks. It doesn't matter where you place her, either at the front or at the back, she will always jump into the exact same spot every single time, which is right at the center of the enemy team. Which it could be a double-edged sword, because jumping straight into the enemy team is simply asking all of them focus right on her. So yeah, she will die pretty fast. So it depends on which faction you play. If you play her in the dark team, then you're definitely going to need Poseidon with her passive. And do keep in mind that Lilith is a magic type assassin, which is kind of rare because most assassin characters are physical. So having Poseidon minus 20% magic defense passive works great with her. The most common combo that I see is Lilith, Poseidon, Artemis with the Spear artifact in a Dark team. Because all this combined, you're gonna deal massive damage right at the start of the fight. There is one important aspect that I really want to point out is her exclusive debuff, this, or this, or this, whatever you want to call it, okay? Seems like the translation is a bit messed up here, but if you get her to Diamond Star, any green characters in the wild state will do additional 50% bonus damage to enemies marked with Echo of Pain. It's 50%, okay? But how? How can we trigger Echo of Pain, right? So there is 50% chance to apply Echo of Pain to the target whenever Lilith used her skills. But skills have cooldown, right? So it's not like she can constantly apply this debuff. So if you're unlucky, you gotta wait for a cooldown to reset and try again. However, she does has a passive where any ally triggers punishment effect, they will also inflict healing down debuff by 50% on them. For every 10% reduction in healing on the target, the probability to trigger Echo Pain increased by 3%. So 50% healing down would be additional 15% on top of the base 50% chance, which is 65%. Not bad, right? But if you play her in the Dark team, where your Dark characters constantly trigger the punishment effects, you can inflict healing down debuff on multiple enemies. But sadly, the healing down debuff from Lilith don't really stack. So even there are 6 of the enemies, all of them have the same healing down debuff, we are still looking at 65% chance on every enemy to trigger Echo of Pain. So instead of getting every enemy to have 65% chance to mark with Echo of Pain, I think it would be better to just focus on one enemy but with higher chance instead, so that we can slowly focus them down one by one and snowball the fight. So now let's pivot our attention to other characters that are capable of inflicting healing down debuff. For the green characters, we have Tearfin. She is definitely one of the best choices here. Not only she can steal healing effects, she is also a dark character, which is capable of trigger punishment effect too. Other green alternative would be Hagin Munin, with her minus 20% healing down debuff. Despite being a dark character, Hagin Munin cannot trigger the punishment effect. Okay, next, I have been cooking this idea, so hear me out, okay? What if we play Lilith in the Otherworld team? Okay, this might sound crazy, but hear me out. Since most of the meta Otherworld characters like Loki, Speemo, Asmodeus, all of them are green characters as well. So they all benefit from the 50% extra damage increase. But the problem is, they can't trigger punishment effect on their own. So instead of relying on the punishment effect, why not we skip it? And we went straight into healing down debuff, like Galvik. Okay, that's a terrible example, but let's be honest here, nobody is Galvik, okay? But how about Lupin? She has a chance to inflict 100% healing down, which is an additional 30% on top of the base 50% chance. So now we are looking at 80% in total. Of course, this is pure luck as well, since you gotta be lucky with Lupin's color cards. And since Lupin is also capable of applying all 3 elemental debuffs, which again, based on her color cards, the chill debuff does reduce healing effects by 15% as well. Oh yeah, here's a quick reminder that Orion works as well, since she is capable of inflicting 100% healing down without spending energy. Next, I want to talk about Lilith's second mechanic, which is stealing stats. Although Lilith herself is capable of stealing attack on her own, there are other characters that can steal stats too, like Prometheus or Beowulf, which he could steal magic defense without spending energy. Because any ally that steals stats, which includes magic defense, would increase Lilith's lifesteal until the end of the fight, up to 20 times. Look, I'm not saying that you should mix up your Beowulf right now because he is kinda trash in late game, but if you're still building your team, Beowulf could still be a decent budget character to use, especially with its passive that can reduce its energy cost. To me, playing Audible Faction is like playing low elixir cycle deck in Clash Royale. You gotta keep your energy cost low so that you can use the dragon skill, especially up against with a dark team or Aeternate. So yeah, playing Lilith in Audible Faction ain't that bad, right? Or you can play her in a light team with Tamamo, Hitomi, and Chiron. So generally, I think Lilith could work with any green characters. So I would say she is pretty universal. By universal, I mean with green characters only. Although I don't think this is the best way to play Lilith, but it is an option, just in case you wanna try it out. And one of the reasons she is easily the S tier is she can increase enemy cooldown on punishment effect. If you are interested on getting a Lilith, here are some other tips that I have found pretty useful. First, for the subclass, you can go for the tier 2 Spy. You might wonder why not tier 3? First, we gotta understand how Lilith works. When the fight starts, she jumps right into the enemy team, but shortly after that, she's going to use her AoE skill, which could hit all the enemies. So she can basically hit all the enemies and get full effect of the Spy subclass right at the start of the fight. But you could also argue that isn't the Forest Bandit works too, since she is technically dealing damage to different enemies, which would count as dealing multiple instances of damage and get the stakes, right? Yeah, but Spy subclass does offer additional 11% attack, while the Forest Bandit gives HP and physical defense. So yeah, if you want more damage for her, I would suggest going for the Spy subclass. Next is the Colosseum tips. You can actually use Lilith in the 1v1 Colosseum for saving 1 or 2 seconds, since she can jump right in front of the enemy, skipping the walking time. 1 or 2 seconds difference is massive in a speedrunning event. Not only just in the 1v1, she is also pretty good in the Team Colosseum, since she can deal big AoE damage with her Echo Pain debuff. Another tip is, personally I think Lilith is the best counter to Venus, which I did briefly talk about in my support tier list video. If you haven't watched it yet, please go check it out, link is down in the description below. Next is, I think most players not really talk about, is the Slime Farm, and Lilith is probably the best character for it. Her AoE skill can literally clear the whole map in one hit. But it has a cooldown though, since it's not her overdrive ability. So yeah, overall, she is one of the best assassins, not because she is stupidly strong in teamfights, although she is pretty strong in PvP, but mainly because she can be used in almost everywhere in the game. So even if you're not playing the green or the dark team, I still think that she is worth to invest on. If you're still watching this video right now, I just want to say thanks for making this far. I hope you will enjoy the rest of the video. Alright, so let's get back into the tier list. Next is Mordred. I'm gonna put her in C tier. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really recommend this character. If you're ever thinking about going for her, my advice is just don't. Just go look for the other characters. There's really not much to talk about this character, especially having an ability that costs 5 energy just for some mediocre effect. if a character that costs 5 energy, I'm expecting big, like real big skill that could potentially turn the fight around, like global AoE stun, or mass healing, or massive damage. Yeah, just get this character. Next is Poe. I'm gonna put him in B tier. One of the best thing about this character is his taunt. Since he's an assassin, you can position him to target the enemy's backline because he will jump to the back and taunt the target for 5 seconds. This could be useful to counter specific characters like intercepting Hermes when she's in her skating mode. Overall, he's mainly good at taunting single enemy, and that's about it. Not much else from him. Next is Rin. Personally, I think she is one of the best assassin, easy S tier for her. She has everything for an ideal assassin character, but more. So in my opinion, I think an ideal assassin should be able to deal decent damage, disruptive to enemy backline, and survivability. Have some sort of self-heal to not over-rely on healer. Not only Rin has all of them, she can even provide buffs to teammates. The utilities that she provides to the team is just too much to ignore. From what I've seen, she usually not the main DPS role, but I did see some other players, their Rin being the highest damage output in their team. So I think she's kinda like Poseidon. You can either play her as a utility role, where her job is simply try to survive as long as she can and keep disrupting the enemies, or you can play her as your second or third DPS role in your team. Another reason to go for her is the 1v1 PvP. Yeah, imagine fighting a 2v1 fight in a 1v1 battle. So yeah, easy S tier for her. Next is Sigurd, which for those who find her looks familiar, well, she is the character that you see in the summoning artifact. I'm gonna put her in A tier. To summarize this character, I have her red 6 on my second account. If I could delete this character and get all my diamonds back from summoning her, I would press that button without any hesitation. Yeah, in other words, she sucks. Okay, here's the detailed review. First off, she does have silence and hitting down debuff on a single target, which is pretty nice, but the main problem of this character is her skills. If you look at all of her skills, they are all about damage. So you might think she can easily be the MVP with the most damage output in every single fight, right? Well, no. Not even remotely close compared to Hitomi or Himiko, like the characters that are specialized in dealing damage, just like her own skills. But if you put her in slot 1 or 2 in the ability queue, she could deal some decent damage, but I would rather reserve those 2 slots for better DPS characters like Tamamo or Apollo instead of Sigurd. Not only she does mediocre damage, she doesn't have any shield, self-heal or lifesteal on her own, so you gotta need a healer to keep her alive. Overall, I think she is very mid, easily replaceable by other characters. However, she is the only character that are capable of inflicting healing down debuff from the light faction, for now. Next up is White Tiger. Just now we got Poe, and now we got the Tai Lung. I'm gonna put her in B tier. Overall, she is mid with some buffs on herself. She is a pretty selfish character that offers nothing to ally. She is all about buffing herself but still do mediocre damage. One thing that I like about her, she can ignore up to 40% physical defense, but only if she don't have any debuff on her, which sounds impossible, especially in the late game because most meta characters right now, they are capable of inflicting not one, but multiple debuffs. So yeah, you're gonna get 20% physical defense at most. Oh yeah, speaking of White Tiger, I'm not sure if you guys get a free exclusive NP for White Tiger on the release of the Noble Phantasm update. And I did notice some of you guys are confused with what is NP. I'm not really sure what they call in the global version. I just simply follow the terms that used in this wiki site. Some of you guys refer them as the relics. So yeah, I'm sorry for the confusing term since I only played the Taiwan version. And yeah, if you did in fact got the White Tiger exclusive NP, then I think she could still worth to use while you're still building your endgame team. Next is Zagreus. I'm gonna put her in S tier. She is more commonly known as the AoE DC kind of assassin, which is true. She is one of the best CC character in the game, but she is actually capable of being a DPS role as well. She can deal extra damage and freeze the enemies that are afflicted with flash freeze or evaporation. And if you play her in a red team where your red characters constantly triggering elemental reaction, then she can easily spam her ability, which you can use Mask Thief subclass for her. She can easily get it to full stacks mid-fight. Then you pair her with full crit damage set, and that's how you play DPS Zagreus if you want. One thing to keep in mind though, Zagreus will only do extra damage and freeze the enemies if they are afflicted with flash freeze or evaporation, which does not include the detonation. If you are confused with these terms, you can go check out my faction video where I explain all the faction perks. The video is in the description down below. Alright, let's get back to the Zagreus now. So yeah, not including detonation. What I'm trying to say is, try to keep your red team with at most 2 elements, if you can, because triggering one elemental reaction will consume the elemental debuffs. So let's say if you have a shock character like Salome, and you also have Ifrit, then those two together would trigger detonation reaction, which leaves you no more elemental debuffs left for your Zagreus to trigger flash freeze or evaporation. This is just a little min-maxing optimization issue here. It's not really a big deal, but if you want to play Zagreus in a best potential, I would suggest not to play shock character. You can go with fire or ice type characters like Vermilion or Hermes for fire and Poseidon or Catherine for ice. Next is Fenrir. I'm gonna put her in B tier. I'm not gonna lie, I used to have PTSD about this character. My team kept getting wiped by her single-handedly back when I started playing this game. Back in my day, almost every single player has her at Diamond Star. She's like the boogeyman hiding under my bed. I always try to avoid fighting players who had a Diamond Star Fenrir. But now she's more like an annoying housefly that keeps flying around and barely do any damage. Overall, I would say she's pretty good in the early game, but pretty useless in the late game. Alright, so let's talk about Lancelot first. I'm just gonna put it here. Oh yeah, do you guys know that Lancelot is actually a female character? If you level up her affinity levels, you get to unlock her animated background, and this is how she looks like. And another evidence that proves she's a female, if you look at her bio in Chinese, they use this character, Ta, which is equivalent to she, her in English. Yeah, other than talking about her fun fact, I genuinely don't know what else I could talk about this character. Anyway, just please don't use this character. Please. Alright, lastly, we have Nemesis, which is surprisingly pretty good for SSR character, so I'm gonna put her in B tier. The reason why I put her in B tier is mainly because you can farm energy point from her. Yes, you heard me right. She's basically an elixir pump. The idea is you can use energy cost reduction weapon set on her. When she's at Diamond Star, she will get 2 energy points back. So yeah, every time you use her ability, not only she can silence her target for 6 seconds, you can get 1 free energy points too. But Nemesis does seem pretty squishy, and it's kinda hard to keep her alive and keep farming the free energy points. And the worst part of this character is you have to manually play the game, especially when you want to time her skill to silence and interrupt a specific character, like cancelling a support using their healing ability. And most of the time, the AI from the auto skill, it will choose to use her skill on the worst target. Overall, I would say she is pretty good for an early to mid game character, but late game wise, she simply couldn't compete with the meta SSR plus or the EX characters. Alright, that's it for this video. If you find this video helpful, make sure to give it a like and leave a comment down below. Once again, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.